Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ruth Reacts to Books. I'm your host, Ruxie Ruth McGouth, and I'm here today reviewing Louise Penny's A Rule Against Murder. This is the fourth book in a series of books. So I also brought the first book, Still Life, in case you haven't read them. I'll tell you a little bit about the series as a whole, just so that if you want to start reading the series, you can make sure to pick that one up first. And then I'll tell you a little bit about the book that I am reviewing today, A Rule Against Murder, book number 4. So this series is about a Canadian detective, Inspector Armand Gamache, who is a murder detective, and he goes around solving murders. And these stories focus on specific murders that he solves, mainly around this small town of Three Pines, which is a little tiny town that's not on any map that you can find, but somehow there are some murders that happen there, and he ends up being the person that is the one to look into those. And so those are what the books are mainly about. You get to know the cast of characters from the small village. And so that's what the series in general is about, and you kind of get to know Gamache and his team and following and getting to know his life and then the lives of these residents in this town. There's a person called Ruth in there, so I like it. She's pretty cool too. A little bit sassy. So this is the first one, Still Life, which there might be a Ruth Reacts out there about that. But the one that I'm reviewing right now that I just finished this week is this one, A Rule Against Murder, book number 4. So in this show, I talk with you. What I do is I tell you how many stars I rated the book, and then I'll read you the back of the book, and I'll tell you what I liked, what I didn't like, and then I have a food that I align with the book a little bit. I share a recipe from someone's food blog so that you can go make that if you want to. And then I also talk about my nail set and how and why I chose that to align with this book. So we'll kick it off. Here we go. It is the height of summer, and the wealthy Finney family have gathered at the Manoir Bellechasse to pay tribute to their late father. But as the temperature rises, old secrets and bitter rivalries begin to surface. When the heat wave boils over into a mighty storm, a dead body is left in its wake. Chief Inspector Gamache, a guest at the Bellechasse, finds himself with a building full of suspects. With the hotel locked down, the murderer is trapped. But a cornered predator is always the most dangerous of all. Dun dun dun! So I gave this 5 stars. That is 2 weeks in a row of 5-star books. So how exciting for 2025. Louise Penny is amazing. On the front of this book, it says a cracking storyteller, and that is very, very true. She's very good at weaving a story. She's very good at creating characters, both beloved and hated, let me just tell you. I really liked this book, and let's get into that. What did I like about the book? Well, it was a bit of a different story. It's a bit of a change from the other books that she has. So like I mentioned, in Still Life and the other 3 that came before this one, they take place in Three Pines, right? So he goes to Three Pines, there's a murder that happens, and he solves the murder. In this book, as it mentioned, he's at this Manoir Bellechasse. Him and his wife are there having a holiday, and a murder occurs. And so it's slightly different what occurs there. And so there are 2 characters that appear who are from the town, and so you kind of get to know those characters a little bit better. And so I enjoyed getting to know one of those characters more. I try very hard not to give spoilers in this, so that once you're reading them, you won't find out, because the back of the book didn't tell you who was going to be there, so I'm not going to tell you either. But we get to know a couple of the people from the town a little bit better in this book. And that was good, because I will say previously maybe I didn't like that person very much, and through this book I got to know them and like had a little bit more compassion for them by the end of the book. And then you also got to know Gamache a little better. You get to learn a lot more about like his family in this book. That kind of comes up a little bit more about his childhood, and so those are things that previously haven't really come up very much. We haven't gotten to know him outside of his haven't gotten to know much about his life outside of his being a detective and being a good detective. So here we kind of got to meet his wife a little bit more, which was nice. Like we already knew her a little bit from the other books, but we got to know her a little bit better too. I really enjoyed the setting. So they're at this Manoir Bellechasse, which is like out in the middle of nowhere in the woods. There's, and there was a funny part where someone was opining about how for some people that's heaven and for other people that's hell, because, Armand Gamache likes it. He likes being out in the woods and in nature, whereas his kind of protege detective finds it absolutely horrible and hates all of the bugs and everything. And so kind of thinking about how different people like different things. And so kind of maybe a theme for 2025, right? And then of course the mystery. I think what Louise Penny does well is you can't really figure out the mystery ahead of time, because there's just things that you can't possibly know that the people in the story know, because they're from Canada and they know backstories that we don't have. And so there's no way that we would be able to know the things that they figure out in the end. So I like that, because that way I don't figure it out ahead of time. And I'm surprised. I like being surprised. And I feel like that's why Louise Penny does a great job of surprising me and kind of coming up with interesting things that always keep me guessing. What did I not like? I mean, I gave it 5 stars, so I obviously really liked it. However, I did miss the other characters that are usually in the books. I missed my Ruth Zardo, who is the person named Ruth that's in the book. She usually has some interesting poetry to talk about, and I missed the other characters from the Three Pines. Like, they were in it for just a hot second right in the middle when they went to visit shortly. But I missed those guys. And then almost all of the new people that we met in this book were really annoying characters. I'm sure that was purposeful, but I gotta look for something that I didn't like. But all in all, great book. So what food did I pair with this? Well, I went out and I looked for a Canadian food blog, because this book, it takes place in Canada. He's Canadian. They did talk a little bit even in the book about Canadian culture and the difference in Canada, like the kind of the culture war between English-speaking Canadians and French-speaking Canadians, which was interesting because I just really didn't know anything about that. So that was interesting. So anyway, I looked up a Canadian food blog and found this one that had so many amazing looking recipes. And I just picked out a rhubarb brioche bread in the book at this manoir. There is an amazing chef who works there, and she makes all kinds of delicious sounding food, and I love rhubarb. So I shared this rhubarb brioche bread recipe that also comes with a rhubarb jam recipe. So if anyone tries that, please let me know how that was. It sounds amazing. And then the nails that I paired with it, so I put the dark green on some of my fingers here, and then I put on my other fingers this it's called Kiss and Tweel, which is sort of like a patterned, and that sort of in my mind was just kind of going with the Manoir Bellechasse in this book. It's a very old-fashioned, beautiful, big, giant kind of mansion-y lodge that was built long, long ago. They talk about it in the book of how it came to be. And so kind of the old-fashioned look of these sort of tweel nails just sort of went along with that. But I wanted the green to represent sort of the forest, the dark forest, and all of the nature that was there. But then I also wanted something that would represent kind of the fanciness of this place that they stayed. So highly recommend this series. Again, Still Life, Louise Penny. That's the first one in the series. This one, A Rule Against Murder, is the 4th book in the series. Highly recommend the series, and I hope you're all hanging in there, having a decent 2025. Let's all hang in together and stay the course. And I will be back as soon as I finish another book. Got a couple going right now with lots of pages, so we'll see how fast I can read them. I got my book club tonight, so can't wait to find out what we're going to be reading next. And I will see you all on the flip side. Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you like hearing my stories. See you later. Bye.